When the gavel came down, I couldn't believe what I'd just done. The crowd inside the county courthouse stared, jaws slack, as the auctioneer announced, "Sold! To bidder number 23. That was me. I'd just bought the house belonging to none other than Martha Whitfield, the infamous president of the Maple Grove Homeowners Association and my personal tormentor for the past 5 years. For years, she'd fined me for everything: a slightly faded mailbox, unapproved solar panels, even for leaving my trash bins out for 5 minutes too long. Every letter from the HOA came with her smug signature at the bottom, and now fate had flipped the script. It started when I saw a notice in the local paper. Foreclosure auction, Maple Grove, Lot 14. I recognized the address instantly. Martha's pristine colonial, the one she'd bragged about every summer barbecue. Her husband had left her last year, and the HOA had quietly been bleeding her dry with fines and legal fees. I almost felt bad. Almost. The day of the auction, she wasn't there. Maybe she didn't think it would really happen. But when I signed the papers, the clerk's smirk told me she'd already heard the gossip. Everyone in Maple Grove had. I drove past the house that evening. Her lawn was still perfectly trimmed, the shutters freshly painted. It looked untouched by trouble. I parked across the street and stared for a while, the reality slowly setting in. I owned it. I owned her house. The next morning, I got a text from my old neighbor, Denise. "You didn't. Tell me you didn't actually buy Martha's place." I sent her a photo of the deed and wrote back, "Oh, I did." Karma's got a good sense of humor. But when I drove up the next day to start moving in, a familiar figure stood on the porch, arms crossed, lips tight, wearing her signature pearl necklace like armor. Martha. "Excuse me," she said sharply, blocking the doorway. "This is private property." "Not anymore," I said, holding up my copy of the deed. "You're looking at the new owner." Her eyes widened, then narrowed to slits. "You think this is over? You have no idea what you've done." And in that moment, I realized this wasn't just about a house anymore. Martha wasn't going to take this quietly. She was going to make me pay. The next morning, I woke to the sound of my mailbox rattling violently. At first, I thought it was the wind, but the second time I peeked outside. There she was, Martha Whitfield, glaring through her oversized sunglasses, waving a stack of papers like a weapon. I opened the door cautiously. "Morning, Martha," I said, trying to keep my tone casual. "You haven't even moved in, and you're already breaking the neighborhood rules," she hissed, thrusting a letter into my hands. "Noise complaint, landscaping violation. And this is just the beginning." I blinked. "I haven't done anything yet." "Exactly," she snapped. "You're a menace before you even unpack a single box. Maple Grove will not stand for this." I laughed, but it came out dry. I'd anticipated her fury, sure, but this level of obsession, it was impressive and terrifying. Over the next few days, her campaign began. I started receiving letters in the mail, formal complaints, HOA reminders addressed to me, even a few threateningly worded emails. Every time I stepped outside, her car seemed to appear across the street, engine running, as if she was ready to report the slightest movement. Then came the inspection. One afternoon, a knock at the door startled me. I opened it to find her holding a clipboard. Dressed in her usual blazer and pearls ensemble. "This lawn is uneven," she said, pointing at a tiny patch of grass near the edge of my property. "And your mailbox is not aligned with the neighbors. I've documented everything. You'll hear from the HOA." I smirked. "Martha, I am the HOA now." Her eyes nearly popped out of her head. "You what?" "I bought the house. I'm the new owner," I reminded her gently. "You don't get to dictate what happens here anymore." She took a step back, jaw tight. "You think you can just walk in and take over?" She whispered. "I built this community. I run it." "I know," I said, "and now I own part of it." For the next week, her antics escalated. Flyers appeared on neighbors, doors warning them about dangerous new ownership. Rumors spread about supposed code violations. I was committing before even unpacking a single box. I even caught her one night sneaking into my driveway to measure the distance between my trash cans and the curb. But instead of feeling intimidated, I felt a strange thrill. Martha had been so used to controlling everyone else, so used to making threats and handing out Finds that I was witnessing firsthand how powerless she could really be. I smiled to myself. If she thought she could break me, she was in for a rude awakening. Little did Martha know her first strike was only the beginning. The tension in Maple Grove had reached a boiling point. Martha. Whitfield's obsession with my new ownership had turned into full-blown chaos. Flyers still circulated, neighbors whispered behind her back, and every little noise outside my house prompted her to storm over with accusations. But I wasn't backing down. I was ready for the ultimate showdown. It all started on a bright Saturday morning. I was hosting a small, housewarming barbecue for neighbors. Just casual, nothing fancy. The grill sizzled, kids ran around, and laughter filled the street. Then I saw her, Martha, striding up the driveway with that same pearl necklace-like armor, her clipboard clutched tightly, glaring daggers at anyone who dared smile in my direction. "Enough!" she shouted. "This is harassment, illegal activity, blatant disrespect. You will remove these people immediately." I stepped forward calmly, holding up my hands. "Martha, let's be honest. You've been trying to control this street for years. I'm the new owner, and today is just a celebration. You can either join or you can continue yelling at thin air." Her face turned crimson. She stomped toward me, shaking the clipboard. "You have no idea what I can do." "The HOA—" "The HOA?" I interrupted, smiling. "Remember, I bought your house. That means I have a say in the HOA decisions now. Technically, I am the HOA." Martha froze, as if the words hit her like a punch. A hush fell over the street. Even the kids paused their games to watch the drama unfold. You can't!" she sputtered, paper trembling in her hands. "I already did," I said, leaning casually against the porch railing. "And everyone here sees it. This isn't your kingdom anymore." For the first time, Martha's composure completely cracked. She flailed her arms, muttered incoherently, and stormed back to her car, leaving the clipboard behind like a fallen weapon. The neighbors exchanged glances, some chuckling, others shaking their heads in disbelief at her meltdown. From that day on, things changed in Maple Grove. Martha tried a few half-hearted attempts at retaliation, more letters, suspicious complaints, but with the evidence I'd collected and the neighborhood now aware of her behavior, she couldn't touch me. Her reputation crumbled faster than she could rebuild it. As for me, I finally moved in fully. I painted, planted flowers, and even added a small vegetable garden. Martha would have probably fined me for, but now, she had no authority to stop me. Sitting on my porch that evening, watching the sunset cast a warm glow over my yard, I smiled. Buying Martha's house wasn't just about real estate. It was about reclaiming control, showing her the consequences of obsession, and proving that even the most fearsome HOA president can be brought down. And in Maple Grove, peace finally returned, at least until the next drama. By the third week, it was clear that Martha Whitfield had become unhinged. Her obsession with my every move was reaching new heights. Every morning, I'd see her car parked across the street like a sentinel. Every afternoon, a new letter, fax, or email appeared in my mailbox. Some formal, others just thinly veiled threats. But instead of cowering, I started documenting everything. Every note she left, every suspicious visit, even the time she tried to inspect my backyard without permission. I wanted a clear record, just in case her vendetta escalated further. Then I had an idea. Why fight her alone when the neighborhood was still watching? Maple Grove had tolerated her tyranny for years. Enough was enough. I decided it was time to flip the script and make Martha the subject of her own HOA rules. I started small. First, I sent a friendly letter to the neighbors, introducing myself as the new homeowner, and subtly mentioning that the HOA fines and regulations now applied differently since the house was no longer under her control. The whispers started immediately. Next, I organized a casual block gathering, inviting everyone on the street. I left out the fact that it was specifically a Martha confrontation. I just said, "Come meet the new neighbor." Naturally, Martha appeared suspicious and fuming, her arms folded, scanning the crowd like a general surveying her troops. "Why are you all here?" she demanded, her voice tight. "Oh, just meeting the neighbors," I replied sweetly. "You know, making sure everyone feels welcome." The irony wasn't lost on the crowd. Martha, who had spent years policing every tiny infraction, now stood silent as neighbors whispered among themselves, exchanging looks and giggles at her obvious frustration. The final touch came when I hired a landscaper to plant a small flower bed along the front lawn. It was technically within HOA regulations, but just barely. Martha's eyes went wide when she saw it, and she immediately began scribbling in her notebook as if preparing her next attack. By the end of the day, I realized something important. Martha's power only existed as long as everyone else believed in it. Once people saw her losing control, her authority crumbled like sand. That night I sat on the porch, watching her storm back and forth, muttering under her breath. For the first time, she looked small, vulnerable, human, and I knew one thing for sure. She wasn't going to quit. She was going to escalate. But now I was ready.